Welcome back to Iris After Hours here in Fremont. We're doing a special couple of days here in Fremont, meeting some amazing people who have all come together for an Iris event. This is Leif Hetland.
Come on.
Was that okay?
Yeah, it's very good.
From Norway. He's an incredible man of God, travels around the world, ministers at a global scale, is the president, co-founder with his wife of Global Mission Awareness. They have a huge heart for the Middle East and for some of the darkest places in the world. He's an author, and thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Happy 2018.
Yeah. How was your 2018 so far?
So far, it's great. Yeah, it's early on, but I'm feeling good about the
me too.
year. How are you feeling about the year?
I also feel very good. I made it for 3 days, and now I got me an upgrade since.
Yeah?
Meaning, I think I started about 3 days into it and realized I just need to readjust some things, and since then it's just been beautiful.
On an emotional level?
I think, in one way, an emotional level.
Yeah.
I think that I came into the year and just had to move right into the hard work of rest.
Yes.
I just felt this.
Hard work of rest.
Hard work of rest, yeah.
Talk about that a minute.
Yeah, I just, as I started to feel the pressure of just all the things I needed to do, instead of just what I needed to be. And that was just So I had a to-do list instead of a to-be list.
I like
So
that.
in the moment we just had
The to-be list.
Yeah, so that was just like, so I sat at my kitchen table with my spiritual papa, his name is Jack Taylor.
Yeah.
And they visit our home every New Year, and 3 days into it, and he said, son, let me pray for you. And he came behind, and he's 84 years old, massaged my shoulder, and he said, and then he just said to me, what's going on?
Oh, he knew.
And he knew, yeah. And he said, okay, why don't you lay it down? And it was like, is it your ministry or his ministry? Your finance or his finance? So I just went through the list and just laid it all down. And
nice.
Wow, it's beautiful freedom.
Early on.
Yeah,
right
very
away.
early on. Why carry all of that with me when
Into
I can have
the
freedom?
year.
And so it was a good start.
Oh, that's a great start. It's a
I
good
just forgot about it at New Year, so now
That's awesome.
I carried my stuff with me.
Oh, that's incredible. You carry such an incredible message about the Father's heart and healing the orphan spirit, and you convey so much love in your messages and when you speak. Can you talk a little bit about how that came to you, how that became such a big part of who you are and what you share?
I think that the journey goes far back because being Norwegian, coming from a very good country, good culture, but still I think there's areas, we have cold weather.
Yeah,
and
very cold.
Very cold. So,
very dark.
But I didn't realize, it is dark, at least in the winter season, and so we usually try to fly to warmer places. But then I think even while I was in my mother's womb, she had a surgery, so I often tell people I was born into this world with fear, because she was not as sure. She had surgery while she was pregnant and while she carried me. And I realized later on in life that perfect love casts out fear.
Yeah.
So I was called to carry love, and that's why the enemy was very nervous about my destiny. And as a result, he was trying to attack. So I think there was just incidences that happened in my life as I grew up, and different things that happened that I realized at the moment when I had an encounter with Papa God as a father. Because I knew Jesus. Later on, got to know the Holy Spirit, and we became very, very good friends. And now you're an orphan.
Besties.
Yeah, besties.
Yeah.
And with the Holy Spirit, the problem is when you have an orphan heart, where you're living for God instead of from God. When you are an achiever, and I came from a place where if you do, then you have, then you become. That was the whole worldview. Of course, the more you do, the more you have, the more you become, and that's how you get value.
Yeah.
So that was kind of especially then in Randy Clark prayed for me, and that's part of.
Yeah, you have a really deep connection with Randy Clark. My mom, Toronto, back in the day, all this stuff's breaking out. What was that story?
Yeah, because when Toronto broke loose, I was a Baptist pastor in Norway. In January 1994.
Baptist pastor,
Baptist pastor, yes.
Yeah.
I came from a very...
Conservative?
Conservative, because my wife was Baptist. That's how I ended up as a Norwegian, as a Baptist. If I was going to marry her, then
that
she
was part
a
of the
Baptist, and
territory.
my father-in-law is a conservative Southern Baptist pastor. So then you go to Baptist college and seminary, and you go that kind of a route. So when I moved back to Norway to be a Baptist pastor, I didn't see much healings or miracles, or didn't believe pretty much. I knew God could do it, but didn't expect. So I'd seen a couple of funerals, people dying of stage 4 cancer. My heart was broken because I knew I didn't have enough of Jesus to do anything about it. So you just lower your expectancy level because then you don't live with disappointments.
Yeah.
So I was going to actually...
But you had a feeling that there was more.
I did have a feeling there was more. So when Toronto hit, I went to England first in '94,
Yep.
when a group of people had come from Toronto. It was the first group. So as soon as I heard about it, one of my elders says, "You are so dry. You need to come." And I was like, "Is that a compliment?" And I went
Dry?
Yeah,
What does that
dry.
mean?
I think he just saw that. I mean, I was drying up.
Yeah.
I
You
didn't
could see
have
it.
much oil. I was burning flesh instead of oil, and it doesn't smell very good. So,
Yes.
so somebody around me noticed that. So anyway, we
Yeah.
went to England, and that started something where I realized there was more. When these people came back, and I had some encounters, but it started something in me. So a year later, June 6, 1995. I'm supposed to translate for Randy Clark in a little place, Haugesund. And it was my
Okay.
home...
In Norway?
In Norway, yeah.
Okay.
It's between Stavanger and Bergen, right between these fjords.
Bergen.
And Haugesund
That
has...
just sounded cool. Had
It's
to say.
beautiful. Second largest city in Norway.
Cool.
So in this little place, small group of pastors in the room. And Randy shared a story, and I think all of us just hunger is there because
Yeah.
he himself had gone through what we have been through. He
Yeah.
had been burned out and dried out and everything. And then he started to talking about what God had done. So we couldn't wait for the importation. And he lined us up on a row, and the Lutheran pastor, he went down, and the Methodist, and you just went down the line. And you just,
Every denomination was
it
going
was there, and
down.
they were just on the floor. And when he came to me, he stopped. And he says, and I have a picture of it still today that I carry with me.
Yeah.
He says, "You are a bulldozer." And somebody took a picture when he prayed for me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, bulldozer? No, I'm a Baptist pastor. I mean, I couldn't comprehend the prophetic even. It's like bulldozer.
Bulldozer. What is that? Yeah.
Yeah, and even English also, of course, I translate bulldozer. I was like, and then I see you going into the darkest places of the world. But I see you going in, it's like the Amazon jungle kind of a picture, but you're going in and you're making a way where there is no way. And I see you going in, but then this big light is coming after you and it's flowing after you. And then I see thousands of people going after you. And in the next moment, I'm on the floor, electricity and fire, electricity and fire. And I didn't have a language what was taking place with this Norwegian. But for over 2 hours, I mean, I was so messed up. And for the next week, I still could feel it. It's
And
like,
that was unlike anything you'd experienced
I
before?
had never experienced
Nothing.
it. Yeah.
Okay.
And then I had a word over me. I think that sovereignly speaking, after that encounter, what God did is that the Holy Spirit just supernaturally used me with words of knowledge and healings for 1 week. It's almost like, do you know what happened here? Let me just tell you, that was me. So the next week, I'm going to give a special grace. So when things get difficult and tough, then you will remember, no, I was actually in it. Because it's like you're getting a seed. You become impregnated with something. But you didn't know that that seed was now there and starts to grow.
Yeah.
So later on, when you feel the discomfort and things was taking place, I know I got pregnant with God. It was not just the word or the fire and everything else. But
Something
I'd
was
see
different in
Something
you.
was different, yeah. But it changed in the way I was seeing the news. So when I came up from that and I looking at what's going on in the Middle East and the Palestinian-Israeli situation, I just started to notice what was going on in my heart. The world was different.
Was
and
that on your radar before?
No, not in that way. And so something had changed, but I
Yeah.
didn't know what it was. So I
Yeah.
saw some heroin addicts. I didn't see them the same way. So it was just something changed, and I started a journey. But it's also the enemy tried to stop. So it didn't take long before, in a Baptist pastors conference, I was sitting in a swimming pool. I mean, I was in top shape.
In a swimming pool?
Yeah, I was sitting in a swimming pool
Okay.
with a group of Baptist pastors.
Okay.
And we were sitting around talking, and one of them decided to jump on the top of my head. But we were sitting on a bench outside. And still don't know why. But that destroyed my neck.
What?
I know, it was like an electricity that went through. So in a moment
This is a bad thing.
It is a very bad
This
thing.
destroyed your neck
Yeah, it
physically.
destroyed it. Still today.
Because
I mean,
a
it's never
Baptist
been-
pastor jumped on your head.
Another one jumped while we were sitting in the pool. It was like crazy. Why is these things happening?
That's crazy.
Yeah, so that started this whole journey that I have a black belt. I'm in top shape.
You have a black belt?
I have a black belt, yeah, from
fun.
back then. So I could do it all, and suddenly now you can do anything. So you suddenly have this
So
importation.
you became immobile. Like
Yeah, I mean, in the sense of crippling migraines and blackouts and in and out of hospitals. And so it's just starting pain medication.
Wow.
And it was just almost like the enemy knew that I'm pregnant with something. And it was almost place after place he tried to stop it. But it was less than 6 months later, I'm in the Middle East. I'm actually in Pakistan.
For the first time?
It was my first time,
Okay.
yes. So, but because now my radar is up, and I had a friend of mine that said, "Hey, we have this Pakistani pastor, a part of the persecuted church. Would you like to have him in your Baptist church?" And before I wouldn't have thought about it, but now I heard I was going to be bulldozer. And
Okay.
actually, a week later, a prophet from Holland came up and says, "I see over 1 million Muslims receiving love because of you."
Okay.
And I'm like, I don't even know a Muslim. I mean,
Right.
this was just, I don't
Yeah.
know. It was like everything was so strange because it came in a seed format.
Yeah.
I was pregnant with destiny or something God placed in, and then it started to grow.
Yeah.
And then the enemy tried to do everything to stop that from happening. That's the best
Wow.
way I can describe it now. At that time, but I didn't know.
Yeah, because it didn't even make sense.
It didn't make
Yeah.
sense. But I still, there's a couple because I just went through it. I have it as memory stone. But one of the first meeting, we had one person who had become a quadriplegic. They had carried him on a stretcher. And I am nervous and afraid. There's a lot of tension. So I'm in a Muslim country where
And they're bringing him for prayer?
they bring him for prayer. yeah.
Okay.
And it was the first time I saw quadriplegic walk. First time I saw blind eyes.
Really?
And then suddenly it just changed everything.
In
And then-
Pakistan?
In Pakistan, yeah.
Wow.
And something happened. But one lady later that night, she said, "Why didn't you come earlier?" She just had an encounter with Jesus. She experienced the love of Jesus. She got healed by Jesus. But now she said, "Why didn't you come earlier? Why didn't you come earlier?" She said, "My husband, he died last year and he never got to hear about Jesus. And my son, he died and he never got to hear Jesus. And the people in my village, they never heard of Jesus. Why didn't you come earlier?" And that hit me. It's one of the two major things that have kept me going, no matter what I've been through. But this one lady, we saw over 20,000 people that received Jesus during those 3-4 days, and I still have an old video and pictures from it. But this one woman, she captured something in my heart. Why should somebody wait for the second coming of Jesus? They have never heard of the first coming of Jesus. And it brought a shift. So the word that Randy spoke, now I realize that I'm there also to represent. I want everybody, this is before I knew about the love, but something in me, I knew everybody need to know Jesus. And everybody deserve at least once a chance to meet Jesus. That became kind of a burning desire. But now I had a lot of dysfunction,
Yeah.
chronic pain.
Yeah.
To make that story a little short, because August 2nd, 1998, things had taken off. I had left the church, moved back to America. I was part of a mega church, was going to the nations, both in Africa, Middle East, other
Yeah.
places. So already in 98. And then I went on a trip to Norway where there was a car accident. And again, my life,
You were in the car accident?
somebody drove me, I was in a car into the mountain walls of Norway. And so there I broke my back, broke my leg and 7 ribs, and that started a new process. Because
Yeah.
now body cast, 9 months, the
Wow.
next 6 surgeries. So again, it's like I'm called to go over here. I have this word in my life. I have this dream over me, but I can't do anything.
Wow.
So I'm sitting, I remember so clearly because my baby girl, her name is Catherine now, she's 21. My wife had just put her on my lap in Disney World, and I was sitting in a wheelchair in Disney World and just felt miserable. And then it started to rain, and I'm like, this is on the top of it. Yeah, it's like, okay, here's
I'm in a
another one.
wheelchair, it's raining.
But then I remember the word
Don't know what I'm
again.
doing.
Yeah, it was I mean, I really felt that I'm not going to be able to travel. It's kind of you have lost your passion, your purpose. You start to lose total hope.
Yeah.
But then because of some of that thing that was in me, no, I cannot sit in this wheelchair. I cannot, there's these things that I need to do. So I continued to press in, but a lot of it was still the orphan in me. This is what I need to do for Jesus. Look what Jesus did for me.
Yeah.
I mean, he gave his life for me, so at least what I need to do is to give my life for the least last lost. That was my motivation. But it was actually fear-based. I did it out of duty, but not delight. I did it as an achiever, but I didn't know how to be a receiver. So this kind of was part of what set me up for the baptism of love, because by year 2000, I mean, I couldn't do anything more. I've been to 50-some countries and seen 500,000 people
So
saved.
you'd been traveling so much up to that point, and then you were kind of out of commission.
Yeah, I was on staff in a large Baptist church, mission pastor, and just in a Southern Baptist setting, traveling the world on the side.
So you're still in the Baptist setting
I'm still in the
after you've
Baptist.
received
From Randy Clark, yeah.
baptism of fire and you've been
Yeah.
out on the ground and
Randy Clark didn't even know about it.
Okay.
I mean, it took 6 years before Randy even heard that he had prayed for me. So I met Randy
Yeah.
pretty much around the same time period. after when I met your mom.
Yeah.
But it was sovereignly speaking, because the brokenness, because I got rejected when we got kicked out of the Baptist, and some was myself. I didn't know how to honor things right, and but there was things that came in. Well, my wife and myself, we were just pretty much devastated, because with the orphan spirit, that was rejection. And then the very one that you thought was family, and I was looking for family. But that led to Jack Taylor, who called me and said, "Hey, would you come to this father and son event?" It was in year 2000.
And you were kicked out of your church.
Yeah,
That's
we
what
had
you're
been.
saying?
Yeah,
Okay.
I lost my position, but also I lost the support for what I was doing.
Okay.
Then I have the chronic pain.
From people who you felt like were your family.
It was my family. It was,
Yeah.
but also we had a large budget. We had a lot of. I mean, I was in a system.
Yeah.
And all of that was unplugged. All
Yeah.
of the support mechanism and everything.
And you're still in a lot of physical pain.
Physical pain, and then I have a wife and 4 children.
Yeah.
And we are in the middle of it, and she's a wife and a mother and a homemaker, and now
Yeah.
we're going to lose it all. But that's how Global Mission Awareness was founded in '99. But still, as an orphan, now I need to do something,
Yeah.
because then you become. That's how you get value from Papa.
Yeah.
So in 2000,
doing,
I just
doing stuff.
doing stuff, and I was a very good human doing instead
Yeah.
of human being.
Human doing instead of human being.
So anyway, so in 2000, that's what God set up. So the 2 biggest thing was outside Jesus and my marriage to my wife and the birthing of my children, the encounter with Randy Clark, and then what happened, as I'm saying, with the baptism of love. And that's
Yeah.
when you're asking about the love
Yeah.
message, because
Because that's a core of who you are now.
it has become, it
Yeah.
just totally changed me.
Yeah.
So in this little room, this is Jack Taylor's wife, Barbara, the first that he was married to. She still had cancer at the time, but before she died, we were in a small room with a group of people. And then Dennis Jernigan, a guy, he was playing the piano, and he says, "I have a song for you, Leif." And it is a father's song. And he just started to sing this Papa song from Papa God towards me. And you can even go online and see Daddy's song by Dennis Jernigan. But when he started to sing that, in the next moment, these waves and waves of love came over me. And I had read about Charles Finney, and I had read about D.L. Moody. I knew a little bit of some of the things that desired me when I read those. There was a few things in some of my history classes in my Baptist college. It's like, I wish I could have experienced that, but it was not even part of my radar. It was just something in history.
Yeah.
But before you know, I laid as like a child on this floor in front of everybody. And Jack Taylor even today says, "I've never seen somebody cry like you did." I cried and
You
I
won the
cried
award.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the tough one. I'm the hard one. No
You're the
matter what I do,
bulldozer.
I'm the bulldozer. Norwegian, stoic.
Stoic.
Yeah, so
I can't imagine you that way.
you know, it's so there was kind of a we have to
Yeah.
do harder. But now I'm just like a little boy.
Yep.
And the love went in when I was in my mother's womb. And love touched the fear of that. Then it went through my life, the 12-year-old boy, the 15-year-old, and waves just continued. It was like a movie. I'm just laying on the floor, and these waves touched the different, all the pain and rejection. And I have great parents, a lot of good things, but it was just like love went through.
Did you grow up in a Christian home?
Good home, yeah, Christian home. And I was very, very blessed, and
Yeah.
still have the best parents in the world.
Yeah.
So I came from a good background. I was just not comfortable with love. And
Yeah.
when there was area in my life that was not comfortable with love, those area I'm not comfortable with God. And you start to fill it with something. And for me is from rebellion, like the prodigal son, I became a prodigal brother. Let me be out in the field working for you.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I kind of went. So that's after the encounter.
So you had emptiness, but you were filling it with ministry.
You feel
Yeah.
it because that's how you get value. Because maybe
Yeah.
Papa would say, "Good job, son."
Yeah.
But through that encounter was an audible voice from heaven that says, "Leif, you are mine, and you're my beloved, and you're my beloved son, not servant, not missionary, you're my beloved son." And when he said that, "I love you, Leif, and I am well pleased with you." Something hit me when the pleasure of God hit me. And at the moment, it's like, it shifted. My life shifted at that moment. The Father is well pleased with me. So I knew Jesus and the Holy Spirit. And I know that kind of a pudding. But Jesus, this time period, brought me to the Father. And when I was able to see his face and saw myself and the pleasure of my Father towards me, it's like I have an A+ before I take the exam.
Nice.
It was like, I don't have to do this anymore. I don't have to. It was like,
Yeah.
it was such a freedom. But then I started also, how I misrepresented love, including in the nations. Because if I don't do enough, they don't do enough. And you have to do something to get value and love. And I started to repent and just started to feel that, including my wife and home.
I was going to say, did that make a shift in your family
It did.
as well?
It was a journey. So it was not something just, the shift had started automatic, but now I'm in a journey towards just being, learning to be a son. Because I'm a son of Papa God. And then Jack Taylor became a spiritual father. So I went through a journey here just learning to be a son, a little boy with a dove, and going on adventures with Papa God. So I started to travel around differently, and that was even around the time when I met your mom in 2001.
Yeah, talk to me about that. That was your introduction to Iris, meeting her? You've been doing lots of ministry in Mozambique already,
that's right.
Which is so cool.
It is.
And
it's actually a little fun experience because I shared a little bit last night here.
Yeah.
Because this church, I sat in Toronto before my baptism of love, when I'd been kicked out of Baptist. And I was sitting in the back in Toronto and just
what is
broken,
this?
hurt, wounded. Yeah, it was like I understood it because of Randy, but still, there was still, with me, I'm broken, hurt, wounded, and I still had all the love deficiencies.
Yeah.
So the person sitting by the side of me said, "Hi, my name is Terry." And I said, "Well, my name is Leif." And it is actually the pastor of this church.
Oh, awesome.
And he said, "Hey." And we talked a little bit about Pakistan. He said, "I'm going to Pakistan next week."
Oh, wow.
And I had just been over there and we connected. And so he said, "Wow, you need to meet this lady named Heidi because I saw you're going to Mozambique."
And Mozambique was on your radar because you said you had a map of majority Muslim nations?
Yeah, part of the things from us in the Baptist was we believed at the time when, after Randy's importation, that we're going to see Jesus coming back, the second coming of Jesus. A lot of us by year 2000, kind of the AD 2000 movement and the Joshua Project. So we had this focusing on if we just bring Jesus into every ethnic group and we a church among every people and the gospel to every person before year 2000. So it was such a focusing on a lot of us evangelical, which is beautiful, yeah. So part of us then is, okay, we don't feed the same people over and over again. So when we were in East Africa, Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, the whole thing is, where is it south of Sahara that has the largest unreached people groups, where we define with less than 1% that had the gospel.
Wow.
So we started to map out, did a lot of spiritual mapping, and intercessors was praying. And so we were in a place called Arusha, and then Moshe, right down from Kilimanjaro. And we would,
Kenya?
in
Tanzania?
Tanzania, yeah, Tanzania.
I was like, Tanzania. I meant Tanzania.
And somebody had just climbed
Kilimanjaro?
Yeah, and they came down, 2 South Africans. We didn't know who they are.
Yeah.
And they would just pray, and they had seen this revival fire coming. But they said, we see it from Mozambique. But there is this, so we like, of course, we want revival fire. We want to finish the unfinished task. And this is before my baptism of love. So my whole worldview is that this gospel of the kingdom must be preached as a witness, a testimony to all ethnos, all nations. And then the end will come. I mean, it's fire. No matter what it costs.
The end will come, literally, 2000.
Yeah, so it was kind of, I mean, we had hoped that as a goal. Yeah, we was just focused. At least we had something we were focused towards. And I like it to some degree.
Yeah.
But then it didn't happen. So
I was going to say.
Yeah.
2000, what did that feel like?
No, I think that in some sense we've seen we've accomplished more. So it was not like, it was not a prophetic type of thing. It was more a worldwide goal of a movement happening, especially among evangelicals worldwide. So these intercessors, they were telling us about 2 unreached people groups in northern Mozambique they had seen up there in this revival.
Specifically northern Mozambique.
Northern Mozambique, yeah.
Okay.
So we said, let's do some spiritual mapping. So our coordinator, Thomas Masamu, who also have met your mom a few times, he organized for Rainer Bunke and for us a lot of the events. So I said, go to Mozambique. So he went and traveled all over Mozambique and came back again and said, wow. He said, well, we need to go there. So we started to going into Mozambique, and we used the same kind of material that you do from South Africa, the satellite, and train up pastors doing crusades and travel around. But our heart was, let's go up to the north, going up to the Pemba area. And the goal was, let's make sure that everybody gets to meet Jesus.
Yeah.
And then the end will come. But through this change now with my transformation with Papa, it was I'm not saying that was not important. It's just I saw the world differently. Everything changed in regard to it. There was not so much of a hurry to, let's just get a job done. But I want everybody to know how good you are and how loved they are. So my motivation now is just I want everyone to experiencing a God that looks like Jesus. They need to have an encounter with him. And it was not just to get them to heaven, but I want to see transformation. We need a disciple nation. I started to think that was a whole different thing than just let's just go and fish and see what kind of a fish we could get. So anyway, so that was the journey then in Mozambique. We were doing a crusade in Beira as well as a leadership gathering and doing a little thing in Dondo, and I still remember the people you had there. And then they had painted in my room, the nicest hotel in downtown Beira, and it was this lead smell. We got nauseated and sick, and they said, we need to get you out of here. My team told me. And we ended up...
You're getting diseases.
Dizzy, and then we ended up in a little British kind of a place.
Yeah,
I think they were owned
in
by
Beira.
British, in Beira,
Okay.
And there, late that night, that's where your mom came in. And remember, a
Nice.
year earlier, Terry Inman here of this church said, you're going to meet this lady. And I'd heard of Heidi a couple of times since, but I was still not in our stream or setting.
Yeah.
But that was, now I'm a son. I'm a beloved son.
Yeah.
And there's all these fun things that started to take place where just this connection happened. So met your mom there and your dad and Guy Chevreau. I remember your mom said, hey, can you pray for me? And I said, can you pray? And we prayed for one another there, and the presence showed up in that room. And it was just, so that was the first connection with Iris ministry.
Wow.
And later on, we did also a crusade in Pemba together.
And you've come back ever since then?
No, I have not. I
Or have you
only
not?
been, actually, I was there last year and spoke in the school, but I've only...
Okay, maybe that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, so I've been back in Mozambique about 3 times since that experience, but I knew that these people are going to reach this nation. This is what these intercessors was going to do. So I knew that in 2002 in Pemba. When I saw that, and I saw both who your mom and dad were, and at that moment I connected to Randy in 2001. He called and said, hey, I heard I prayed for you 6 years ago. I'm in Brazil. And then the next moment, and that's also later on, the journey with a relationship with Randy and Bill and all of the rest of our family just...
So wild.
It's been 16, 17 years.
Now you guys are in the same family.
Oh, it's just
You're
a family
here.
family
It's
event coming
awesome.
together. And,
That's so cool.
Anyway, it's a long story, but it's a lot of
No,
fun.
I love it. The history is incredible.
Yeah.
You mentioned Memory Stone just really quickly just now. Can you talk to me about what that means to you? What that is?
Yeah,
People don't know.
No, I didn't realize I was starting to do it, but everything I have is a memory stone. So if I look at this, I can tell you this was my first trip to South Africa.
Yeah.
Or if I'm looking at the picture that I have here of your mom and your dad, the day we met, I got a picture from it. Because right now when I look at the picture, I can feel the prayer. I can remember the prayer. I feel the atmosphere. Where I going into some of the parts of the world, there's times I cannot see. And there's times I cannot hear. It's just you're getting so overwhelmed by the circumstances. So what I do, including this morning, I have a whole stack in my bag of memory stones. So then I go back to the first creative miracle, the first encounter I have. I have a picture when Randy Clark prayed for me. So I can, in this moment, go right back, feel it, feel every aspect of it, feel the baptism of love. So I carry those things with me. But also from all over the Middle East, I carry the memory stone. So when I start to rehearse what God has done, I don't get distracted by what the devil is doing or what the enemy is doing. As long as I get the focus, this is what you have done. So even this year, before I started the year, Papa Jack, who's 84 now, we drove back into Columbus, Georgia, and we went back to where the first office was. We went to 12 major places in our life that we've had together in regard to memory stones from the last 17 years.
Oh, wow.
And then we look at 2018 and say, okay, now God. We looked at the bear, now we look at the lion, look at Goliath now.
You remember where you went?
You remember,
where you're
and
going?
then your hearing always comes back, and then your sight comes back. So when you have the memory stones, and it's interesting what even the word Ebenezer was the word that was used.
Yeah.
And there you can break.
Because you said there's a biblical principle in this.
Yeah, there is biblical principle, and it was also, there's several of them, but when the Israelites crossed over to the other side, and they had gone through, they told that, tell your children and your grandchildren just to build these memory stones. Take these stones. So what they did is they brought the family back again and said, hey, let me tell you what we went through. It would be like with Irish ministry. You have people are coming in right now, when they come to Pemba and see all these things.
Yeah.
It's important then to bring it back. Let us talking about those earlier times.
How it
and you start to
started
look at all
with
those
nothing.
things. With nothing. Yeah.
Yes,
With
yeah.
nothing. And you take the time, because if not, what is happening, you're not going to be able to steward it generational. So you often lose about a second generation. And if you can make it through 3 generations, you transform cities and nations. So you have that Abraham, Isaac, Jacob.
Okay.
So they told them, tell your children and your grandchildren. Because as long as they can remember God's faithfulness, what God has done. And when you can keep that
Yeah.
in front of you, then God will continue to work. But when they started to forget, they started also to lose it. And I'm just saying, I want to steward. When I start to see everything you have done and the faithfulness, the scars around my body is all just memory stones of his faithfulness. I'm here. My smile is a genuine smile. This love that has been burning in me, including just during Christmas season, some horrific things was taking place over there. Instead of being
Really?
overwhelmed.
Over there?
Yeah,
In the Middle East?
Yeah, there was Kuwait on December 7, the ISIS suicide bombers. But then instead of being overwhelmed by that, it's becoming overwhelmed by him. And then going in and say, Papa, what do you want to do now? Because you have the memory stone of what he has done before. Now, as we're facing this, it's no longer a problem, it is a promise. So how do we receive this promise? And it's just been something I've carried with me and also helping my spiritual sons. Like we were just in the Philippines with 1,000 of our young leaders. And what we do is we spend hours and hours to tell the story. Because when we came in there, they were all third wall. All of our sons, they were orphans. They didn't have cars. They lived in poverty. And when you come now, if you're just stepping in, there's open heaven, there's revival fire. Paul Yada was just with your mom and dad and both spoke there. And you see what they are carrying and who they are. But the journey, the 80% of the people that come in, they don't know the story or how was the first year or second. So we visit each floor of the journey, if you can say. So now when you're looking at floor 18 years in or 12 years in here, then you can see how each one of them are, and then we can build up on that. And that's kind of been part of what we've been doing.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that. It's going to give me more motivation to take photos,
Come on.
which I don't really need, but I'm going to remind my husband of that if he
That's
ever
good.
complains. Yes, I love that. Briefly, can you talk about, so you've been in the Middle East a lot. That's a huge part of your heart. What have been some of the challenges of navigating that? Or is there anything specific that you can talk about in terms of that journey and what's been difficult and what's been a highlight?
I think that one of the difficult for many, many years is just some of our worldview. Because I think that a lot of people misunderstand me for what I'm doing. You're getting over there, so you have the persecuted church. How do you meet with Muslims? Why would you? And it's just, so I think that's been a big challenge on all sides is, first of all, how do I love people without a hook, without any agenda? That became a big, big thing for me. Because I realized that I love them so that, and then you have a hook. So just when he started to say, I want just for you to represent my love to them so they can see. So when I started to love, especially influential leaders, and a lot of them are my friends all over. But when I just decided, no, I'd rather have relationship than being right. Love first, then ask a question. So it was more the first thing I want him to encounter is just his love. And in words, thoughts, and deeds, let him experiencing that. So that's been one of my challenges, just a worldview issue in the sense, how do I see them? When I'm looking at them the way that Papa God sees them, especially people that are more difficult to love. It's been a lot of hardship in regard to pain, persecution. It's definitely cost a lot.
For you?
Yeah, the hardest, there's no doubt about it. If you're saying the most painful part is just my wife, she's here, children. Many of the times you left them knowing you're never going to come back. Because some of our assignment was so impossible.
Dangerous.
They were so dangerous, So especially a 10-year period of time.
Were there moments so there were moments you thought you wouldn't come home?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's been so many close encounters. And it was not me dying that was the difficulty, or have lost a lot of people. And so over that period of time when we've seen that and seen some of the most horrific things that even now I just went through restoring the foundation just to deal with the last traumas. But that's because, again, I cannot afford to carry some of those things. So I'm saying the true
Things that
hero.
you've actually seen
And
witnessed.
been part of an experience that just
Wow.
it marks you. The pain of that, and then to be able to. There's so many times you want to give up. It was just it's too hard. I don't know if I can do this, Jesus. And your mom is actually one of my heroes. It's like there's been several times where we get together in different settings. We bump into each other in Chicago or Voice of the Apostle, and I feel I have 100 problems, and then I'm hearing about, I'm not saying they have 1,000 problems, but it's like, I thought I had a big giant, I just was around Heidi, and I run to the altar again, and I just like, oh, give me one more, give me a little bit more, more of your love, Papa, one more round. So there's been a...
But that's intense.
Yeah, it's been tense, and so my wife, that's been the hardest, where we have a phenomenal marriage, been married for 28 and a half years, but it was years there where she was home. And
She was home.
Yeah, and my kids, with the kids, we lived on one income. You risk it all, and there's been a lot of things I cannot talk about just behind the scene, both in America and around the world, especially after September 11, 2001.
Wow.
That became a very difficult day for me in every area, because
Yeah.
now I actually have a campaign. You can go on an internet. It's called Loving Muslim on Purpose.
Loving Muslims on purpose.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I am mobilizing people to love Muslims, but wherever you go in the world, that's not necessarily the most popular thing to say and talking about. And my heart is genuine love towards the 1.6 billion Muslims, both Sunnis and Shia. It's not an agenda. It's not I genuine love that. And my worldview, when I'm going there, it's family. I'm walking into the homes or into the mosques or into different Islamic universities and lecture. And it's just over the years as I've been brought in and pretty much been adopted into a lot of different cultures.
Yeah, you've had a lot of doors open for you there then.
Incredible favor.
That's a miracle.
It is a miracle in itself. And that's why, how do I steward that? And how do I steward those relationships? And how do I represent them well? Especially when you have a small percent that misrepresent them. And the world believes that message, that's who they are. While I meet some of them too, but even there I see them a little bit differently, because when you see them with heaven's eyes and see them the way Papa God sees them, then you don't see people based upon their history, but their destiny.
Yeah.
And is a different worldview.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So that's been the hardest part, is my family. Health has been another one with a lot of attack, where it seems like when I'm going in an assignment, it's been, as I'm saying, a lot of surgeries and brokenness and double pneumonia, and
Wow.
right before you speak, it's like, it seems like the enemy is very nervous when you choose to love certain groups of people, and so. But at the same time, I'm very, very grateful that I've been able to be part of a little piece of what is on the heart of the Father, and He has such a tremendous love for this world, and that's the more I see that, the more I get just.
And it's contagious. Just hearing you talk, it's incredible, and. It's so inspiring. I feel like there's so many stories we could hear. So you have to come back, please. If you don't mind, I'll ask you some informal questions. What do you prefer, the mountains or the beach?
Beach.
Beach? Why?
I'm raised around mountains. I'm from Norway with the beautiful fjords and everything else.
Yeah.
So kind of the beach, cold weather most of the time, the beach was the place you went to just kind of recharge. So because it's warm weather and when you lived in the cold. So I think subconsciously that's been part of me. It's
nice.
Yeah, so I love the beach. I love the mountains too, but that's.
Yeah, I'm the beach. Yes. Child of the beach. Favorite movie?
I love Braveheart.
Yeah. Oh man, if Nathan was here, my co-host,
come on,
he would be yelling right now. That's absolutely his favorite. That's an intense one though.
Yeah.
Woo! So good. Do you have a favorite sound?
You think about just sound or music or?
Sound, whatever that means to you.
Wow. I was going to say the sound of music, but that sounded like
music and movie.
Yeah, the movie there. No, I just. There's a beautiful sound that is in the Middle East. When I'm coming in there, there's this sound that you get in the morning, and even it does something in me. Something becomes alive in me when I just.
Wow.
It's like each nation for me have a smell. You can blindfold me.
Yeah.
And it's the same also. There's a sound over each nation, and I believe there's also a redemptive sound in the land. And but there's something for me when I go into the Middle East, and the sound that I'm hearing that makes me alive.
I love that. I love that. That's a great one. If you could pursue any other profession, and you're obviously doing what you're called to do, but if you could pursue anything, what would it be?
Well, I love business and marketplace, and I'm
Okay.
involved in that. And
Yeah.
so that's something that I love. Also, I was going to either become a lawyer or go into the ministry. So international law. So that would be the other side.
Was ministry a surprise for you?
It was more that God. I one weekend I said, either go to law school or you call me.
Whoa.
And at
It's
that,
down to that week.
Yeah, in a weekend, and then there was a sign that I got that weekend.
Okay.
Where a guy said, "You have a call to ministry, young man." And of course, we didn't know that you could be a lawyer and a minister, but so anyway, so,
Like, okay.
come on.
I could have done both.
Yeah. So
No, that's amazing. That's awesome. And finally, what are you most excited about for 2018?
I think I'm very, very excited about just. It sounds like I'm not too excited, but to be honest with you, is to love myself better has excited me.
That's a good one.
Yeah, it's just I feeling that we're scheduling in Sabbath and rest in the calendar, taking a week every quarter just to be in the presence. I can
By
even feel
yourself?
it. Yeah, being in the presence,
okay.
and my wife can also come with me, but either beach or mountain. So we schedule
Probably, hopefully beach.
Yeah, beach. Yeah. So we have scheduled time of just to be with Jesus all throughout the year. Everywhere I go, including while I'm here between the travel, I've scheduled time to be with Jesus. Exercise, taking care of myself. I mean, just scheduling margins because I've been so busy that sometimes, and then I've had a lot of brokenness, broken neck, back, different issues I've struggled with health-wise.
Yeah.
So I think that just right now to be able to slow down a little bit, get some margins. And then another thing I'm excited about, I'm finally, after 7 years of dreaming, coming up with an e-course on, the first one is actually about upgrade in love.
Upgrade in love.
Yeah, learning how to receive love, become love, and release love. And guess who is going to be there? A special guest that I'm interviewing in it. Heidi Baker, have you heard of her? And David Wagner and
Incredible.
Sean Bolts. Yeah, so those are the three on a different journey. But it's taking people on a journey of how the seed of love. So you get rooted and grounded in love, but how do you become it? How do you become love, and then how do you multiply it, release it?
And how can people look out for that?
If they just look at Leif Hetland or Global Mission Awareness, I'm sure, because it's going to be in the next couple of weeks. But it took me a long time before finally I feel that my journey is to give people access, and we have these taking people on a journey.
And how do people find your books?
My books
Leif
also, you can
Hetland.
find them, Amazon. You
Online.
can find them pretty much
You have a
everywhere.
website?
Yeah, Global Mission Awareness.
GlobalMissionAwareness.com.
.com. Yeah, or if not, they see my name, Leif Hetland, and they can search, or Amazon, or you find it pretty much anywhere.
There's a lot of those books.
Yes.
I was trying to, how many books have you written?
9.
That's impressive. That's awesome. And they'll probably keep coming, I'm guessing.
Hopefully not this year.
Okay.
This year is the time.
No, this is the time to
love
rest
myself.
and to love yourself.
Yeah.
Yes, the same. I love that. Thank you for being here. You're
Thank
so
you.
inspiring. It's so impactful to hear just a little bit of your story. So hopefully we'll get you back.
Come on.
Thank you guys for listening, for watching. If you have questions or comments you'd like to hear us ask future guests, leave your... I never mess this part up. Leave them in the comment section under the Iris Global channel on YouTube. Whoa. There we go, making it through. And you can subscribe to our podcast at iTunes or wherever you find your podcasts. And thank you. Until next time.
This podcast is presented by Iris Global. For more information or to support the work of Iris Global, please visit us online at irisglobal.org.